everyone. Welcome to Why Are You Still Here?
Again.
The show, again. The show where Lucas and we're going to talk about anything, and we don't care what you think. No, we do. We do. Anyway, speaking of that, Lucas, let me tell you a little brief story. So,
okay,
we work
well,
with
first
somebody.
of all, okay.
What?
I thought you were about to go right into the ghost.
I swear to God, working with this guy.
Yeah, whichever way you're gonna point.
Whichever way it is. No, it pertains to a coworker of ours. Her name is Holly. Shout out to Holly. You know, we are very appreciative that you checked out our episode. But what was funny is she was like, yeah, I saw the episode. This was our first episode. And she goes, it's true. You guys never shut the hell up. And I was like, you know what? That's true. But in my opinion, it would make for a pretty boring podcast if we were just sitting here staring at each other. So, you know.
Yeah.
What are we expected to do?
Okay.
You know, of course we're going to talk. Of course.
Yeah, so, I mean, today is going to be a pretty interesting topic. And I would like to bring up the idea of ghost stories because Brandon is going to take the reins very shortly. This is going to be his comeuppance, shall we say. He's the expert in this area. He sees it much differently than I do. I don't have anywhere near as many experiences and stories that'll interest people in the same way. What am I looking at? I was hoping it was a boo. I get it because
I don't see anything. It's so weird.
So that about sums up how I feel about ghosts, ironically enough. I don't know if that was the point. Quick thinking on your feet. I'm really not, like, I love ghost stories. I love, the campfire stories. It's very fun to tell. It's fun to do. The game room here, the set, everything is in a basement. All right. There's storage down here, guys. There's a wind chime that's just stored up there for God knows what reason. And sometimes occasionally you might hear a little twinge of the wind chime. And then I always say, oh, it was the ghost. And then sometimes it scares people. They're like, oh, it was a ghost? No, the house was settling and it just moved a little bit. It wasn't a ghost. So I think Brandon's, the look on his face kind of sums it all up. Now, just because I don't have the same experience, I do have one paranormal series of events that occurred over a period of time moving into a new house, which he has a similar story to. Many people have similar stories to, so there might be credibility and credence there, even if I had it. So I can't deny anyone else's experience. I can only share mine. And just because I like to add a comedic spin on it, guys, I just want to preface this and say it. It doesn't mean that I think you're an idiot. So not necessarily. I just want to get that out of the way. I can't get canceled over ghosts. It's 2021, baby.
I'll cancel you. I wish I had something to set this on. Anyway, let's see here. Whatever. I like me some Boo. Anyway.
I know.
It's my favorite.
Only in
character.
Super Mario World, not Mario 3, right?
I like Boo in anything. And Boo, King Boo. Isn't there an Emperor Boo?
Yeah, and an Empress Boo, a Pharaoh Boo. I don't know.
I like it all. Because they're, they're stupid, right? They come up, they're floating towards you. You look at them, they turn away, they cover their eyes, and they think you can't see them, But they're lovable. The real question is, in the Mario world, are these ghosts of people who have died? Like Mario, like let's say Mario
They're the ghosts
dies.
of the Goombas and the Koopas.
What if Mario died? Does he become a Boo?
Possibly.
Or are these just like creatures that just exist on their own? Like they exist to be ghosts? Think about that. Let us know. I'm very interested. All right, yeah. So, like Lucas said, I have a few stories. As I've come to find out, 5 minutes ago, Lucas thought my stories were going to be funny. I'm really.
I mean, everything
really,
it's far from funny. I mean, to be fair,
I'm disappointed to tell you, but they're not funny.
No, not one bit of fun.
And
you can't even find comedy in them either. That's like the funniest part of that.
That explains something, actually. For those that don't know, and that's everybody but me and Lucas, this is actually our second time recording this episode. We had technical difficulties for the first one.
It sounded like ass.
Yes, that's what I hear. And the whole time I'm telling the stories, and Lucas is just staring at me. There's no response coming from him.
Well, I'm just soaking it up. It's not what I was expecting. And to be honest,
stories landing, I don't know, because I'm so used to people that are like eating it up, So it's that was a little bit interesting to me, and I assume in that face of blankness, we were seeing somebody really trying hard to find the comedy in it and failing miserably. So.
It's very very entertaining. A lot of these recordings that some of them fail, they become like case studies. They're interesting to study. And we're pretty sick of hearing each other's voices after watching these videos and editing them and whatnot. But it was interesting though. Because when you do tell stories, I mean, obviously you're very theatrical and you are funny too. So you always put something funny and you put funny voices and movements and like you act everything out, but it wasn't what I was expecting. So I guess I was just thrown off. And as I was listening to it, I mean, I'm thinking it's still theatrical. It sounds like a movie. So I'm like, this doesn't even sound like reality to me. So I'm trying to like think of things that justify it not being supernatural. So I guess the look that you saw was confusion and confliction on multiple planes. Just you saw literal thought. So it wasn't me ignoring you or thinking like, what is this?
It's good though, because like I said, every time I've shared these stories, and most of them I share with friends that I have at some point or another, and usually they eat it all up. They're on the edge of their seats, they're hanging on every word, and they want to hear more, and so this threw me for a loop. But
well, maybe that's good then. You gotta keep you on your toes.
I maybe it is good. I have
you got to keep you in check.
Show behind me, and it is shining into my eye, and it's now giving me a headache.
I can see.
So that's good. That's a good way to start this off. Also, there's ghosts over my shoulder.
Yeah. So what are those? The ghosts of cherries?
That's a fine question, and I demand an answer for those
Are we bringing in another confliction here? Vegans, leave in the comment section below what you think. Now that cherries have an afterlife, what do you think?
If that's the case, or are there the Pac-Mans die and they become ghosts like that? Tell me. That's not my middle finger. Kind of looks like it is though. This is right there. Anyway, all right. Yes. So let me tell you guys a story. Several. All right.
That was
And
pretty good.
Good. I didn't want to move.
That was pretty entertaining
from my comfortable spot here. So basically, to give a quick run through of my entire life. No, I'm not going to do that.
Please
when
don't.
I was younger, my mom and my dad, they split up. My mom moved out. I was with her most of the time, even though I still would go to my dad's. But I was her with most of the time, and we moved into a townhouse. And this townhouse, out of the places that we've lived, there wasn't a whole lot of ghostly happenings that happened there, for lack of a better word. In fact, there was nothing that happened with me. And there was the occasional thing like with Lucas mentioning the wind chimes, that kind of deal. It was sometimes at night I'd be watching TV, which felt like it was the latest I've ever been up in my life, which it probably was, but it was like midnight.
Yeah.
And randomly the channels would just flip up. It'd flip up 4 or 5 channels, and that would happen from time to time, which actually thinking back on it, that's a pretty weird thing because I've never had that happen to me again. But it could probably be explained maybe by faulty batteries or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to be fair, and I'll say this: as far as like the channel flickering thing, I have something similar with other electronics, but I've never had anything weird with the TV. And I think tangent counter, one thing, we have this fascination with like older things. Like, are you ever gonna see a flat screen 4K 60-inch TV with white noise on it and have it look kind of creepy? Because that static like that doesn't exist on high def TV. Like, that's from an analog signal. That's why it makes that noise. That's why it does this. That's why when channels flicker and look weird, it's because the signal is different. Old radios, when they go on and off and make that like like that noise and things are weird, that older stuff kind of scares us. But like, even with all that older stuff, and we've had a lot of it, I've never really had any problems with it. But the TV thing, yeah, a lot of people have had that. So I've always wondered about that. This is the non-skeptic. Wait, skeptic? I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Maybe there is a little ghost that's just want to get your attention and flicks it up. It's interesting.
I don't know. It's
Does that happen with newer TVs? Kids, leave in the comment section below. Do poltergeists haunt your new electronics? Episode 7.
It is weird. And if I recall, it happened to me twice. One time was extremely vivid to me, and it did freak me out. Because it just, went up the channel. It went up like 5 channels, and one at a time. And it was like, that was weird. And then I was afraid to touch the remote and, all that kind of stuff. I was a little kid. But something that is not my story, however, and this is new for you.
Oh, good.
It's
so I can sit deadpan and stare at it and make you think that I hate you. Continue.
Yeah, exactly. And then it make me want to go end everything when we're
jump out the window.
Jump out the damn window.
Anyway, leave in the comment section below if you get the reference.
If you get the reference, I will send you this James Bond Funko figure. Seriously. It's an extra.
2 years from now, somebody will understand the reference when we garner an audience.
Also, 2 years from now. Yeah, actually,
we get our
you
first
got it.
Comment.
2 years from now, that's when I'll get our first comment, and then they'll also get it, and then they'll get this, at that point, really old Funko figure. Anyway.
Yeah.
So this wasn't my story. I heard about this years later. But for those that don't know, I have a sister. I have 2 sisters, actually. And the one, Michelle, used to come over, all the time. She'd come and, visit. She'd spend the night, whatever. We'd hang out. It was a lot of fun. And I guess I wasn't there at this moment. Maybe I was at school or something like that. It doesn't matter. But my mom knew that my sister was coming over. within an hour or so. So she decided she was tired she was going to lay down and take a nap. And she was like, whatever, I don't have to set an alarm. When Michelle comes in, she'll wake me up, right? And so my mom lays down to take a nap. She ends up dozing off, and she wakes up to a noise. And this noise was the door downstairs slamming, and her going, well, I guess Michelle's here, right? And this is followed by two voices in the kitchen. So there was a male voice and a female voice, and she was like, did she bring Joe? That was her boyfriend at the time. She ended up marrying him. So they were together forever, but she's like, did she bring Joe? That's so weird. She listens to this argument. She's like, so strange. And I guess she ended up, just sort of laying back and being like, well, if she doesn't come wake me up, I'm just going to continue sleeping kind of thing, which I can relate to. And then she hears footsteps in the hallway, and she gets that feeling, that somebody is peering around the corner looking at her. And she's like, I'm just going to keep pretending I'm sleeping until she comes and actually officially gets me. Well, like 5 minutes goes by, nothing. So my mom, gets up, she looks around, and she's like, I guess maybe it was Michelle looking around the corner to see where I was. But why didn't she wake me up? And then all of a sudden my mom hears the front door slam again. And she's like, where's she going? So she hops out of bed and she bolts down the stairs. And first off, it was such a weird situation, because why would she bring Joe? Where was she going now? And why didn't she wake her up? Right? So a million questions are flooding through my mom's mind. And so she goes for the door, literally rips it open, and Michelle is standing there with all her bags. And my mom goes, where did you go? And Michelle was like, what are you talking about? I just got here. So she was like, you didn't bring Joe with you? And she's like, no, I literally, I haven't even come in the house yet. So that was a situation that happened at the townhouse. It didn't happen to me, obviously, but a very strange happening. It seems like we don't have to analyze it now, but that would be a pretty hard thing to try and explain. And so from that point forward, it was years later that both my sister and my mom told me that story. And it was like, we weren't living there anymore at the time, but that was some freaky shit right there. So we ended up moving from the townhouse to a condo when I was about 10 years old. I was in 5th grade. And so we move into this condo, and there was an assortment of weird things that would happen there from time to time. There was somebody who either died there or started to die there, and then they died on the way to the hospital. I believe it was an older couple, and the man had a heart attack, and he probably, I don't think that he actually bit the bullet inside of the condo, but who knows? It's possible. And then his wife ended up, selling it, moving out, and that's who my mom bought it from. And so it's like, where to begin? So I have a new one for this one as well for you.
Oh, good Lord.
And
two new stories.
Yes. And
an extension onto another one. Wow.
Exactly.
That's 3 for the price of one.
3 for the price of one. 3 birds
or none.
1 stone. And this one was just kind of like a stupid kind of thing, and it's probably why I didn't even think about it, because this is easily explained.
Oh, cool.
Not,
Something we
it's
need
not
something
really.
we need something fun to break it up with, guys.
It's not
Because
really it. And this
Brandon's
one
putting
is
a
a
real
little bit.
spooky damper on everything. We need to have some comedy coming in, which
This
we
one
will
is a
soon,
little
guys.
bit.
Stay tuned.
This one is a little bit funny.
Cool. Okay.
Now at the time, it was anything but I, like I said, it was a little bit stupid, and I didn't even think about it until I was like, I need more stories. And then I was like, well, there was that. So this was probably one of the very first things that happened at the condo shortly after we moved in. And I would fall asleep, listening to music, CDs. If you don't know what those are, watch episode 1. I'd listen to CDs and either music or like thunderstorm, nature sounds, that kind of thing. And there was this one night where I had a dream. I'll say that right off the bat because I really don't want to paint the picture that maybe I was awake, whatever. I was definitely sleeping. But in my dream, I got up out of bed. This is one of the first times I've ever had a dream. One of the only times in my life I ever had a dream where I was walking around the environment that I fell asleep in, right? Like everything it was like as if I got up out of bed, but I was sleeping. So
that's weird.
So I got up. It is weird.
Could you see yourself sleeping? Really? You're just
no,
okay.
It was just like I woke up in the middle of the night. So I got up. I pulled the, headphones out, right? And I start walking down the hallway. And the way that it worked, there's the hallway. I went to the garage. On the right, there was the computer room, blah, blah, blah. And for some reason, I'm just walking down the hallway and I go for the garage door. And so I opened the garage door. And when I say garage door, I mean the door leading to the garage, right? I open it up, and in the blackness, all of a sudden I start hearing a noise. It sounded like, wheels turning. And I can't see anything though. So I'm still looking. And literally out of the pitch black, all of a sudden this old decrepit rotting corpse of a man comes wheeling out of the pitch black darkness in a wheelchair. And as soon as his face becomes visible to me, lightning strikes and lights him up so I can see him. I know. And what was funny was the lightning struck and it woke me up. And guess what the lightning strike was? It was the nature sounds that I was listening to. So it was literally, it was this whole thing. And you could probably say, like, I had that dream because of I'm listening to, thunderstorms.
I have a super similar experience that I was going to mention earlier, but it didn't really fit into anything, but now it does. So continue with yours. So that was actually a pretty good thing to bring up.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous looking back at it now because I can remember like everything about it. And
were you a kid?
It was
obviously you were a kid. You said you were listening to CDs, so yeah, it was a while ago.
I was like 10 or 11 years old. And at the time I was like, immediately I turned the CD player off, and it was bad. But yeah, now looking back at it, it was funny, and I can still have a pretty clear picture of it as well, like this decrepit old rotting man. Though on the flip side of that, if you want to get serious about it for a second,
okay,
maybe that was a weird dream featuring the guy who died there, the old man who died there. He might have been in a wheelchair.
I guess if you want to get like meta on it or something, sure,
analytical. And I didn't think about that until like years later, and whatever. I don't like to speculate. That's the thing you'll notice with my ghost stories is I just tell you what the facts are, in as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not trying to speculate or make anything to be more grandiose than it actually was.
Exact word that was on the tip of my tongue.
Very good. Psychic connection. Nice.
Yeah. Speaking of spooky.
Yes.
Yeah, like psychic connection. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I'm gonna say my very similar story.
Yes,
now, mine
please.
happened as an adult, so I knew what it was because I was falling asleep as well. Oh, I wasn't like going to sleep for the night. It was I was at school and I was sleeping in between classes. Yeah, this is when I was at school, so I was like I was taking a nap in between classes, and I was a young guy. I had a picture, a Marilyn Monroe poster on my wall. Okay, I'm not proud to say it, but I was one of those people at one point. All right, that's like a real basic, basic bitch, but like a basic guy thing to do. Basic, whatever. We're not going to go into that because I swore way too much in the first episode. We gotta keep it a little PG-13. Okay, I guess for the most part. Anyway, so
you get one ad.
Yeah,
right.
I used it earlier, so
sometimes two,
depending on context. So, anyway, I'm falling asleep. I'm listening to like a YouTube video, and I'm just kind of drifting off. And there's that poster. It's like right across from where my bed was. I'm falling asleep, like I'm starting to drift, off, and it was like one of those weird, like in between being awake and being asleep, where like you start to close your eyes, but you open them back up and you are awake, and then things kind of drown out. So I knew obviously I was in between, and I'm just like looking at this poster still, and it like Marilyn Monroe like twisted up like enlarged, like growing and shrinking like an acid trip. And I'm like, whoa, man. And I'm just looking at it. I'm like, whoa, man. Perfect reaction for it. Anyway, so I'm looking at the poster. I'm like, what the? And then like her arm like starts to like slither out of the poster almost. But it was like a sloth looking arm. Like it was sort of fuzzy looking, like it had claws on it, maybe it was a monster, but it just kind of like slithered and slunked around and then like wrapped itself around my arm, and like I felt it crawl up me, and I just remember waking up and screaming.
That's
and
a good one.
You know what? I think some of that might have to do with like those sleep paralysis stories, because I have a sleep paralysis story. I was in high school at the time,
good.
So I wasn't like an adult, but I wasn't like a kid.
Sure.
And so I'm laying in bed, and I'm starting to fall asleep, and I just feel like a really tight pressure on my neck, not my chest or anything like people say, like something's sitting on you, but I had it on my neck. And what it felt like was if you just took your fists and just pressed in, like I was just being choked. And I was thinking, like, am I having an asthma attack? I haven't had asthma problems in years. And like, I couldn't breathe. And it just felt weird. And I'm like, oh boy. You know how I try to approach things very funny with these ghost stories? Of course I did it again. I was a real punk ass edgelord kid. All right. That's all I'm going to say. So, wow, my dog got up as I'm telling the story. Is this, you know how dogs are attuned to
paranormal?
I gotta go let him upstairs.
Supernatural. So how you guys doing? Your day going well? I hope so. Let's try some ASMR, shall we? Skit, 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 skit. Skit, 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 skit.
Sadly, anyway, so,
I don't know what you're talking about.
So, of course, okay. Anyway, we'll just get right back to it. I was a punk lord kid, punk edge lord, whatever, and I even
bitch.
Yes, I even tried to make it funny. Then I'm like, well, am I just being possessed? Well, I might as well see what happens. I swear to fucking God, that's what I said in my head. So I just sat there,
Well,
and then eventually, Yeah, you know, what are you going to do? So I guess I laughed at it, but approached it realistically. That's how twisted I am, you guys. So I eventually wake up, and it was just one of the weirdest like sleep experiences. I honestly kind of forgot about that until I thought about the other thing and like how it could have been sleep paralysis. So I guess like a lot of that when you're falling asleep, I attribute that to like even like your mom's story or like the story you have. Like when you fall asleep, you can think some real weird shit that you swear is real. So I'm not saying there's no validity to anything. Like I said earlier, don't say that I'm discrediting you, but like I've had some really strange falling asleep stuff. And we could attribute that sleep paralysis story to what I presumed to be a poltergeist in my room, but we have concluded that it's not. And I think we can talk about we can talk about my pal sleep paralysis who haunted my house after Brandon talks about this story at his new house, because it is in line with a similar experience. Now, I stole the floor for a little bit with a really entertaining diatribe, and I think this shows our dynamic here, because like I said, he was really serious about this one, and I came into it like, dude, I love campfire stories. I went into it with that mentality. I did not go into this like round table political ghost debate, which is what it's turned into.
Sure. Anyway, I don't even know what to say to that.
I had to be over the top for it.
In response to what you said about my mom, very fair point. She never fell asleep.
Really?
Never ended up falling asleep. Nope. And she was fully awake that entire time. Her eyes were open most of the time that was happening. She only actually closed her eyes when she felt that my sister was peering around the corner looking at her, because she wanted to keep she hadn't fallen asleep yet, so she wanted a chance to sleep for a little bit before my sister came and woke her up. So yeah, it's and my mom is she'll you know, she has the exaggeration gene a little bit, but really
that's where you get it from.
I mostly get it from my dad.
Really?
Is usually pretty she has it like a tiny bit, but you know, not above the average amount. I've never heard my mom actually exaggerate in the ways that my dad or I might. So, you know, she has that story is weird. But yep, never
very
fell asleep,
strange
though. So yeah, so jumping back to the condo, there was two things that happened there. And let me just say to everybody as well, you know, because I know Lucas will say this as well, that, you know, you have an active imagination when you're a kid. You know, you might see something, you sort of come up with an explanation for it, blah, blah, blah. Keep in mind, during this entire time, since I was born, I was also living at my dad's house, and my dad lives in an old house, and there's every reason that shit should have been going on in that place, and there was never anything that happened there. I don't have a single story for my dad's house, which is really crazy.
From my older house, to tell you the truth, I don't either. There's nothing ghostly and spooky over there, and I don't know. That wasn't.
When it comes to ghostly things, you know what it is as soon as you see it, in my opinion, in my experience at least. Like, you know,
that's a good way to put it,
that there's not another explanation for what you're seeing right now, and it freaks you out. You know, the hair stands up in the back of your neck, you get chills, it's freaky, and then you just move on with life. If something happens that you are like skeptical about, that's a different story. Of course, there's creaky pipes and all that kind of stuff. If it can be justified, it's a completely different type of situation than when you actually come in contact with something. And a lot of people might say, well, then why is it that you have had all these experiences and I have never had an experience. And I would simply just say it's because you're not open to it. You're not open to it. You're not.
That explains a lot. I'm not. I guess I'm not. Why do you think I keep making comedy light out of all of this, especially with my like only ghostly like encounter stories are yeah, they're true, but I tell them in the most hilarious way because that's how I looked at it at the time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know, man. You might have some validity there.
None of these things, despite the ridiculousness of the dream with the old man in the wheelchair,
I loved it.
None of these things were funny at the time. They were extremely frightening. So, so I have to personally continue to give them the due respect that they had at the time. So jumping back to the condo, there was 2 more things that happened there. And, one of them is, there was, to paint a picture for you again, I was living with my mom. I lived with my dad some of the time. When my mom went to work, she was working at MGM Detroit Casino at the time as a car dealer. She would drop me off at my dad's first because obviously I was too young to stay home by myself at that time. And I had school the next morning and stuff. And it was like, I wasn't going to be able to get myself to school. But, so I was sitting in the back of the car, my mom is getting ready to pull out of the garage. And all of a sudden, she hits the brakes and she's like, oh, I forgot something. And I can't remember what it was to this day. Obviously it wasn't that important, but she forgot something, maybe her apron or something. Dealers wear aprons like servers.
Really?
Yeah, she still has her entire uniform, I believe. I'm gonna have to ask her about that. Unless she had to turn it in. But yes, they wear aprons. And she's like, I'll be right back. And I was like, okay. And she ran out of the car, around the car, through the door, the fateful door to the garage, and then down the hallway. She left the door ajar though, so I could see down the hallway. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And I'm thinking like, where is she? It's been forever, right? And I'm just like, come on. I'm thinking in my head, I'm getting like angry, like, Mom, come on, but I'm not saying anything, right? And, a little bit more time goes by, and all of a sudden in my peripheral vision, I see somebody, I assumed my mom at the time, walk out of the computer room and then down the hallway. And so I'm in the process of saying like, Mom, what's taking so long? And as soon as I turn, I see nothing is there. Even though within my peripheral vision, this figure should have still been halfway down the hallway, should have been 100% in view. And, that was a really weird experience. As soon as that happened, because I saw it plain as day, and I was like, I'm not gonna look down there anymore. And I'm just sitting there as a little kid, like with my hand up, I'm like, I'm not looking down that hallway anymore. Come on, Mom, come on. You know what I mean? So, and finally she ended up coming, and then she was like, oh, sorry, whatever. And she got in the car and then we took off, and that was it. And, that was a really weird experience because it was like, it was a very solid figure that I saw, so much so that I assumed.
When you said little kid, how old were you?
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think here. So between this story and the next one, there was like a year or two in between them. But I mean, we moved into the condo when I was 10. So okay. I was at least 10.
So an older, younger kid, not like a little kid.
Not like a little child. Yeah, no, I was probably 10 or 11, maybe 11. Doesn't matter. Okay. But and then the next thing, second to last one I'll talk about, and then we'll get into Lucas's. But it happened. It was at the condo as well, and this was now at a point, like I said in the last story, I couldn't stay there alone. At that point, this was now a point where I was allowed to stay at home alone, and my mom had already left for work, and now I'm waiting there for my dad to come pick me up. And it became nighttime. I was playing on the computer, and then I decided, I'm gonna go watch TV, whatever. And the condo always just had sort of a strange feeling about it anyway. Like, it just wasn't like a super happy place. That's probably not paranormal. It was just, I don't know, it was weird. It was a weird time in life. And so I was walking back to the TV room, excuse me, and I had to pass by my mom's bedroom door, which was open. And as soon as I started walking past the bedroom door, I can see yet again in my peripheral vision, there was clear as day, like a little girl who was completely white, so much so that it was completely filling up the space. You could see her in the middle of the, blackness of the room, and she was sort of skipping along with me as I moved. So to paint a picture, I was walking past the doorway, and she was sort of following me along, skipping in the room as I was walking past the room. And I saw it again, the whole chills, hair on the back of my neck kind of deal. And I just made a beeline to the front of the TV. And I was like, I am not going to look anywhere near in the direction of that room, and again, until my dad gets here. And unfortunately for me, there was mirrors all over the walls. It wasn't a design choice we made, trust me. Like, the walls were mirrors.
How old was the place to have mirrors like that?
I mean,
that's a good
question.
We had to
massively update it when we moved in. So I really don't know. It might have been built in the 80s. So there was mirrors just
I'm just trying to get a picture of what this room looks like, because that is
literally
older.
The walls were mirrors. That's the best way to put it. From floor to ceiling, the walls were mirrors.
That's awful. That sounds fucking awful.
Yes. The only place in the living room where they weren't mirrors was behind the couch. And that was it. Everything else was mirrors, right?
Ew.
So, so it was intense. Actually, this is a major tangent. If anybody wants to see what this kind of looked like, you can actually go look at my YouTube channel, my original YouTube channel, and I made a little comedy short film called The Closet. And it was there. It was comedy short film about George Harrison from the Beatles living in my closet. And you can see a bit of it because it was there. We filmed it at the condo, so you can see bits of what I'm talking about. So I couldn't look anywhere, if my eyes veered anywhere from the TV screen, they were going to hit the mirror, and chances are I was going to see into the doorway of my mom's room. And I did not want that. I was like, no, thank you. And I stayed zoned in until I heard my dad arrive. And then I got up and I went with him, and I was like, I didn't talk about this. I thought if I mentioned this, I was going to be, looked at as crazy, because this was before I had heard the story about my mom and my sister at the previous place we lived at. We just didn't talk about this kind of thing. So I held it in for a long time and tried to justify, what I saw, and, if it was truly real or not or whatever.
Yeah, it's exactly what I would have done.
Yeah, it was really strange. And what ended up happening was, like, a year or so later, my mom had a psychic party. And Basically she would have friends come over, they would have a psychic come over, the psychic would sit in my mom's room, and they, one by one, they would go in there, get a psychic reading, so on and so forth. So, this happened. I wasn't there for it. And I was talking to my mom about it afterwards. And I was like, what did the psychic say? And she was like, well, she said that there was the spirit of a little girl, a little blonde-haired girl living in my room that liked to hang out in the corners of the room. And that's exactly the direction of what I saw. That's where she was going. She was skipping along, and where she ended was in the corner of the room. As soon as I heard that, it was like, who the hell says that? What are the chances? What are the actual chances?
If someone said that, if I had this experience, I probably would have just called the cops. I don't even know what I would think. Like, called Ghostbusters, man. That would scare the shit out of me.
And I'll say this, just full disclosure. Again, I don't want to say anything that will sort of like purposely try to make the story sound better than it actually was. I'm trying to be very realistic about this. But in my mind, past that point, I always imagined her in a white dress and blonde hair. But again, to be honest, full disclosure, I don't remember if I thought of that detail in my head after hearing what the psychic said, or if that was something that was in my head already. But it was just weird in general that it was a little girl that was in my mom's room that hung out in the corners. And it wasn't like a little girl just in the living room or a little girl in the computer room. It was a little girl in my mom's room. And it was just like,
scarily specific.
So weird. So at that point I was like, well, Mom, I have something to tell you then.
I probably would have just burnt the house down, to tell you the truth.
It was a weird experience, and to give a little bit of credence to the psychic, because I know a lot of people will say, well, psychics are fake and whatnot, and I agree with you. A lot of them are. A lot of them are.
There's a place that's really close to me. It's a few blocks down, few miles down. And it says psychic reading or psychic exams, psychic readings, $10, and it's like with your little neon light up sign, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like that's not a quick buck.
I know exactly
what I mean.
You're talking about. I pass by that place sometimes.
Yeah,
it's in East Point.
No, it's not. But no, it's not.
Okay. Well, there's one there too. So if you ever want to,
did my Mac just go into light show mode? That was weird.
That's funny. Ghostly happenings. You all heard it, folks. He set that timer to 3 hours. So
yeah, right. He got into the Mac.
It is kind of weird, but so my mom didn't even bring up my cat, Keela. The psychic brought up my cat, and she said, your cat, she hasn't been using her litter pan recently. And my mom was like, this is true, yes. And she said, it's because you changed the litter, change it back. She doesn't like it. It hurts her paws. And my mom was like, you're right. I just changed the litter to a different brand like a week ago. And she's like, yeah, make sure you change it back. Then she'll be happy. Oh, by the way, you know how you put away her fishing pole? Yeah, she wants that fishing pole back. She wonders where it's at. And my mom was like, yeah, you're right. I did put away her toy fishing pole, about a week ago as well. And she's like, yeah, bring out that toy fishing pole, and she'll be much happier. So do that and you'll be good. So this psychic knew that she had changed the litter to a different litter, and and you're not a cat owner. I am.
Nope.
You do not change the litter. That's not a normal thing to do. You stick with the one that works for you, and the entire life of that cat, 9 times out of 10, you will have the same litter the entire time. So that was not a guess on the psychic's part, in my opinion. And the second thing was the fishing pole thing. Not every cat has a fishing pole. I've had many cats in my life. Two of my cats have had fishing poles, you know? And so the fact that she was like, she wonders where that's at. I don't know. I just think there's no explanation for that. So that always...
I have no reasoning either, other than to just say, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's one of those things where you're like, I don't know, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that added credence as well to what this woman was saying. And my mom had gone to her for a number of years because she was good. My mom had seen psychics that were not good in the past, and she never saw them again. But this woman, she, she was pretty decent. So she saw her for a while prior to this point, So she, but they weren't like friends or anything. So, and this was before social media and whatnot, where you could do a bit of digging as a psychic and, learn things that you wouldn't normally know. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And I'm going to put out one final story here, and then we're going to get into Lucas's, his experiences that he has. Yeah. And then
the ones that I can't, the only ones that I can't explain are those ones that I have. All the other things that I talked about that are admittedly far and few between, those stories were the ones that I discredited immediately because I could explain it like that. But it's still fun to think of it as a little spooky because I just that kind of guy.
So,
but continue.
So one quick thing, and we'll get into that, and then I'm gonna cap off the episode with my greatest story ever. Do you
have the images for it, by the way?
I do, yeah. I mean, they're all on Facebook. You can actually access them yourself. You don't have to, but there's so many of them that it might be the way to go. It's a folder. It says The Adventure at Eloise Part 2. Okay. But I don't know. It's my something French. That's what that story is. So this one last thing here, my dad's girlfriend lives up in Marine City. We were hanging out there one time with some of our friends from Canada. They were visiting us. We were up in the bedroom upstairs, hanging out, watching TV, me and Eric, my friend from Canada. And we, we're just watching TV. Side note, this room we were in belonged to her deceased son, who had passed away in a car accident when he was 16 years old. I thought it was 18, but he was 16, unfortunately. And he was hit by a drunk driver, I believe. And he, or he might have driven off the side of a cliff. Actually, whatever. It's either way, it's unfortunate, obviously. But this was his room, and so we were in there. Obviously, it's not occupied anymore, and it became nighttime, and it was like, okay, we're going back home to my dad's house, and it was like, all right, pack up, we're going, just because we weren't gonna spend the night there. And Eric gets up, runs out of the room, down the stairs, and leaves me up there alone. And it was a hot summer night, and I'm like, hey, we need to close up these windows and turn off the lights. Like, what are we living in a barn here or something? I don't know. And so I start, I turn off the TV, I start closing up the windows, start lowering the blinds, and I get to the very last one. And all of a sudden I hear over my shoulder, I'm the only one upstairs, and I hear, Brandon. And I was like, my first thought was it was Eric. Nobody else was upstairs with me, but who else could it possibly have been? At this point, I was probably like 13 years old, just to throw that in there. And I went, huh? What? And I turned my head. I see nobody's behind me. But now, even closer, I hear, and louder in the same ear, I hear, Brandon. And I went, nope. And I did not finish closing this window. I could not run faster out of that room and down the stairs. And immediately I get down the stairs and everybody's down there like, what's going on? And I told everybody what just happened. And you know, it was insane. My heart was beating through my chest. And you know, I can't remember at this point if Suzanne and my dad ended up going upstairs and checking it out or whatever. And obviously nothing was there. But then Suzanne really, truly believed me, which was very nice. And she ended up, you know, sleeping in that room for a few weeks after that, hoping to get some type of... That's honestly the
saddest thing I've heard.
I know.
I mean, you said it the last time. I mean, guys, like we already said, we filmed this before, but that is, I just have to say, that is the saddest shit I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, it is really sad, and it's crazy to think that he was only 16 years old as well. And like I said, I don't remember exactly what it was. I know that it was a car accident, but it might have been something like, you know, they went on a vacation, like a trip, him and his friends, and they were on the side of a mountain, like out west, and they lost their like footing, and they ended up just going over the side. It's something like that. It's really, really unfortunate. But
that is a horrible way to go out. I couldn't even imagine that kind of pain.
Yes. And the thing I will say as well, with a lot of these other situations, it felt scary. It felt weird. It felt not good. As scary as it was to hear my own name said twice into my ear, it didn't feel like there was anything like weird or malevolent going on there. And I actually, every time we spent the night there from that point forward, I had to sleep up there as well. So I quickly just got used to it, and nothing ever happened again, strangely enough. He might have been like, you know, I don't want to speculate, but he might have been like, okay, this guy is not into getting communication from us. Obviously, I don't know. Just figured I'd throw that out there. But I open the floor to you, sir.
All right, I will seal the floor.
Yes.
This is